North Tyneside Council Cabinet, which is the second virtual Cabinet meeting following the recent introduction of the regulations to allow remote meetings in the light of the current coronavirus pandemic. My name is Norma Redfern, and I'm the elected Mayor of North Tyneside, and I will be chairing this meeting this evening. I'd like to inform everyone that this meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel to enable the public to observe the proceedings, and I welcome anyone who is watching. Before we move on to the agenda, I'd like to make it clear who is participating in the meeting and explain how we intend to conduct the meeting. In order to check who's in the meeting, I'd like to ask everyone present to confirm their attendance at the meeting. First of all, I will call out the names of each Cabinet member, and after I call your name, please turn on your microphone and camera and introduce yourself, please. And the first person I'm going to call on is Councillor Bruce Pickard, who's the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Bruce Pickard, the Deputy Mayor, and my portfolio includes responsibility for regeneration, planning, business and economic development. On the internal council functions, I'm responsible for the delivery of the investment programme, along with the Cabinet Member for Finance, also IT, HR and the Capita contract.
Thank you. Councillor Gary Bell.
Yes, my name is Councillor Gary Bell and I'm the Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care.
Thank you. Councillor Carol Burdis.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Councillor Carol Burdis, Cabinet Member for Community Engagement, Safer Communities and Resilience. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Steve Cox.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everybody. My name is Councillor Steve Cox and I'm the Cabinet Member for Housing for North Tyneside Council.
Councillor Peter Early.
Hi everybody, my name is Peter Early. I'm the Cabinet Member for Children, Young People and Learning.
Councillor Ray Glindon.
Good evening everyone. My name's Ray Glindon. I'm the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources.
Councillor Margaret Hall.
Hello, my name is Margaret Hall and I'm Cabinet Member for Public Health and Wellbeing.
And Councillor Carl Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Councillor Carl Johnson. I'm the Cabinet Member for Environment and Transport.
And Councillor Sarah Day, who's Cabinet Member for Culture, Sport and Leisure, will be joining us very shortly. Can I now ask the officers in attendance to introduce themselves? After I call out your name, please turn on your microphone and camera. Introduce yourself. Mr. Bryn Roberts.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. My name is Bryn Roberts. I'm the Head of Law and Governance for North Tyneside Council.
Mr. Phil Scott.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. My name's Phil Scott and I'm the Head of Environment, Housing and Leisure for North Tyneside Council.
And Wendy Burke.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. My name's Wendy Burke and I'm Director of Public Health.
And Jackie Lawton.
Evening, my name is Jackie Lawton. I'm Head of Corporate Strategy and Customer Service for North Tyneside Council.
Janice Gillespie.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. I'm Janice Gillespie. I'm Head of Resources and Section 151 Officer for the Authority.
Thank you, Janice. And Dave Brown.
Hello, Madam Mayor. My name is Dave Brown of Law and Governance.
Janice Gillespie. And Miss and thank you. I don't know what's going on there, but Yvonne Harrison, sorry, Yvonne. You're mute.
Sorry, I'm Yvonne Harrison from Law and Governance.
Thank you very much. Can I now ask the young Mayor and our partners who are in attendance to introduce themselves? After I call your name, please turn on your microphone and camera and introduce yourself. Susie Mackenzie. Come on, Susie.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Susie Mackenzie and I'm the current young Mayor of North Tyneside.
Yes, one of our great young people in North Tyneside, Susie. Robin Fry.
Good evening, Robin Fry from Voda, here to represent the voluntary sector.
Thank you, Robin. David Hodgson.
Good evening, everyone. David Hodgson. I'm representing North Tyneside Business Forum.
Thank you. Janice Hutton. Has Janice been able to join us this evening? Unfortunately not, but Janice Jenny is with us and she's from North Odbury Police. Roger Layton. Has Roger been able to join us? No.
Good evening, Madam Mayor.
Oh, Roger, sorry.
Sorry, Roger Layton. I'm the Joint Trade Union Secretary representing unions in North
Thank you very much. And Dawn McNally.
Good evening, everybody. Dawn McNally from Age UK North Tyneside, representing older people.
Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to ask this question because is there anyone I've missed? Hopefully not, because I think it's really, really important for people who are watching to know who's here, what the positions are, and what responsibilities they have. So thank you very much for that. I know it's time consuming, but it's really important that they do know that. Right, for today's meeting, we must first deal with some of the formalities. Apologies for absence, David.
The only apology I have is from Mr. Paul Hanson, our Chief Executive.
Okay. Declarations of interest and confirmation of minutes. Anyone? We'll do the declaration of interest first. Anyone? Any? No? Can we agree the minutes of the last meeting?
Great.
And that was on the 26th of May. Thank you very much. And now it's over to our young mayor, Susie McKenzie. Over to you, Susie.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I hope that you're all keeping well. I would like to begin by thanking all the young people who voted for me in the Young Mayor's election and my teachers and friends from St Thomas More Roman Catholic Academy for their support too. Since I became Young Mayor in March of this year, Abby Tang became member of UK Youth Parliament. We immediately went into lockdown and the young people's meetings were suspended. This meant the way we usually should have done things has been a little more challenging for us all. My pledge, which I was elected on, to create better support in schools for mental health issues and work on improving and promoting mental health facilities. I think that young people's emotional well-being has had more pressure put on them due to the COVID-19 crisis and the prevention of the usual everyday activities that people would take part in. I've been using my Young Mayor social media account to get out positive messages with tips on how to keep your emotional well-being positive. Abby and I have also started a blog and I am contributing to a newsletter which will be going out to young people in the borough. Abby Tang's pledge to reduce North Tyneside's carbon footprint and engage young people in tackling climate change has also meant Abby achieving her aims through social media. She has been active in giving out advice to people about how we can keep North Tyneside looking lovely and enjoy being outdoors. She has also had virtual meetings with a member of UK Youth Parliament from the North East region. The other young people were very encouraging when they heard Abby's plans and want to work with her to roll out projects such as the reuse refill water bottles in the North Tyneside North East region. It was unfortunate that our planned residential to Hawkshead couldn't go ahead because this was one of the items that we were planning on collaborating with the region. Last week, Abby was also busy taking part in the Carbon Trust virtual workshop in partnership with North Tyneside Council. The workshops were developing a vision statement and action plans for the borough for it to become zero carbon by 2050. I chaired my first youth council meeting on Microsoft Teams and it went very well. We had 20 youth councillors active online. It was great to see everybody again. We talked about how the lockdown had affected us all. Generally, people were positive about their time spent with family, telling us about the cleaning and decorating that has been going on along with gardening, cooking and the long walks they've spent with loved ones. Some people have struggled with schoolwork, boredom and not seeing their friends, but generally people were valuing the new structure to their days. We discussed how we would support the virtual campaign for free school dinners. Then 2 days later, the government agreed that this should happen anyway. We were all very pleased about this decision and happy that the young people from low-income families will now be fed during the summer holidays. We also consulted the youth councillors about the Poverty Intervention Fund and asked for any ideas that they might have prior to Abby and I meeting with Jackie Lawton. I am pleased that I will be part of this new steering group for this fund, and I look forward to the discussion on this tonight. We have agreed that we will hold the virtual Youth Council meetings fortnightly to see how we can develop our projects using technology prior to us getting together again in the future. I was also a part of the Northumbria Police Youth online meeting. This was very interesting for me to hear other workers from Northumbria Force region talk about the young people's experiences and challenges during this time. Last Saturday, many of us attended the British Youth Council e-convention, online of course. Young people from across the North East region continue to work on the national campaign, Protect Our Future. Last year, young people from across the UK voted to prioritise climate change and the environment as the UK campaign issue from the year. To enable greater debate and discussion on the national campaign and actions to take forward, they hosted 2 calls, one on local environment, the other was global climate change. Later, young people took part in a consultation which asked for their views on the future of local government 2030. Young people fed directly into the National Commission as evidence. British Youth Council wanted to know how young people's views on what local government should do, what functions, how it works, how it's paid for, etc. To answer the question, what do you want local government to be doing and look like in 2030? Later in the day, we looked at mental health and how to cope and finding little more happiness during these unsettling times. As a youth council, we are looking forward to how we can achieve our plans in a creative way, looking at doing things differently. The use of technology has been important to us in making a good start, and I look forward to sharing many more ideas with you going forward. Thank you.
Well done, Susie. Can I just thank you and Abby for once again, despite the lockdown, you're getting on with the things that are important to you and to us in North Tyneside. And I'm particularly pleased to say that you're trying to help us with our green agenda and, of course, mental health, which is very, very important to our young people and to everyone, really. So thank you very much once again. Has anybody got anything to say? Any questions for our Susie? I can't see any hands up. Well, anyway, where is she gone? Poor Susie's gone. I would just like to say, Susie, I'm pleased, really pleased that you feel you're in the saddle now, doing a good job for our young people, because you came into power, didn't you, as the young mayor, when everything stopped. But you see, this is what's happening on your young people. You've got lots of energy, lots of creativity, and you make it happen as well. So thank you so much. Much appreciated. Okay. We're now going on to update on the impacts of COVID-19, and I think that's going to be Wendy, is it not? It's going to take us through this, Wendy?
Yes, got a very short presentation.
That's good.
With an update. Can I ask, is somebody bringing the presentation up? Or do you want me to? I can share it. I've got it open. Okay. Oh, okay. Can everybody see that?
I can.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just a very short update. There's a total of 4 slides, and the first one's a title slide with little Effie there working from home. So I'm going to cover a bit about test and trace, the cases in North Tyneside to date, and then some brief words around the latest on recovery. So we'll start with test and trace. So test and trace, the NHS test and trace programme was launched on the 28th of May, and as part of the government's not only response to COVID-19, but also recovering from COVID-19. And clearly it forms part of the authorities' response to recovering from the virus. There are 4 elements to the test and trace service. The first one is the test element, and that really is about targeted testing, not only for the NHS social care staff and care home residents, but also ramping up a greater amount of testing for anybody who has symptoms. The second element is the trace element, and that's around contact tracing for all of those who test positive, tracing contacts and then giving advice on those contacts to isolate for 14 days. The third element is the contain part, And this is the part where every local authority is required to publish a local plan to control outbreaks of infection, which will then move us to the enable fourth element, which will inform decisions about social and economic restrictions. So we have developed a plan. Our plan is going to be published tomorrow after it's been signed off by both the Chief Executive and by our new multi-agency COVID-19 engagement board, which is going to be chaired by the Mayor. And as I say, that meets for the first time tomorrow. The plan has got a firm focus on the preventing of local outbreaks, as well as identifying our arrangements for responding to and controlling outbreaks. And we've been given a grant by the government of 1.1 million to support that activity. In terms of cases in North Tyneside, so up until the 23rd of June, when this presentation was written, we had a total of 887 confirmed cases in the borough. These tests were undertaken by the NHS and also by the National Testing Programme, the drive-through and the mobile testing units, and also the postal kits. So our rate of confirmed cases is steadily declining, both nationally and locally. In fact, I was just looking at the data for today, and in the 6 days since this presentation was written, we've only had 7 new positive cases in North Tyneside. I think it's worth saying, since the test and trace system's been up and running as well, of our 887 cases, 110 of those came through the new test and trace system, and of those 110 confirmed cases, 291 contacts were identified and were asked to self-isolate. We've had 149 deaths in the borough. Again, I hear a lot of people say, oh no, we've only had 149 deaths, but clearly every single one of those deaths is a tragedy. And we all will always remember that. 57 of those 149 deaths occurred in care homes across the borough. For the last 2 weeks, we have had an excess death rate in North Tyneside that has been below the 5-year rolling average. So that is really, really good news. So just a bit of an update on recovery. So you'll be aware of most of this. We've got more services operational again. So on a week-by-week basis, we're standing up more services as a council and delivering very important services to our residents. We've got a number of safe space changes at our town centres and around the coastal strip, and they will go live this week. So that's good news. They're really important from my perspective as the Director of Public Health. They're really important because they allow us to implement those important measures that actually stop the transmission of this virus. So again, you know, despite the fact that some of the advice on social distancing has changed from 2 meters to 1 meter plus with mitigation, where possible, we should still be encouraging all of our residents to socially distance by 2 meters where they can. And these changes will help us do that. And then in terms of discretionary business fund, again, we're supporting more and more businesses across the borough. And that's really important as the economy starts to move and starts to get back to some semblance of normality. We've also received 1.5 million from the North of Tyne Combined Authority Capacity Fund, again to support our recovery efforts. I'll pause there now. That's the end of the presentation, Mayor, and I'm very happy to take any comments.
Have we got any questions or comments for Wendy? Steve Cox, would you like to ask or say or whatever you wish?
It's just a question, Madam Mayor. It's over the last few weeks, there's been several points made about the lack of numbers for the number of people who are being tested, not necessarily the number of tests going out. And obviously it makes a big difference if we're not testing enough people, individuals. do we have figures for North Tyneside which say how many people, actual people we are testing, or are we still on the fact of the government's figures being unclear at this time for how many individuals are being tested? Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. Steve, I can't tell you how many people off the top of my head have been through our testing sites. I can get that information for you, but it's not something that we get. I don't get that daily. What I get is a daily report on the number of positive cases rather than the number of people who have come through testing. I think one of the issues around our local outbreak management plan, and one of the key things that we need to do as part of the communication strategy, is to encourage everybody who has got any kind of symptoms of coronavirus. So that's a high fever, a new continuous cough, or a loss or a change to their sense of taste or smell, to come forward and be tested. We think nationally there's a bit of complacency around people not coming forward to get tested. So as I say, that will be a key part of our local outbreak management plan, to encourage people to come forward if they've got symptoms.
Any more questions for Wendy or comments? No. Well, thank you very much, Wendy. Much appreciated.
My pleasure.
We now come on to item 6, which is a recovery framework for North Tyneside. And I think I will introduce this paper. First of all, I'd like to say I'm very pleased to bring this report to Cabinet and set out how we plan to ensure that North Tyneside is able to recover from this awful pandemic. But it's not just a plan to recover, it's a plan to restore hope and confidence in the future. Working together in partnership across the borough, our plan will ensure that we are able to adapt to live with the virus in the community, and at the same time address the deep impacts this pandemic has had. In line with our North Tyneside plan, we will focus on our places, our people and our economy, both to recover but also to deliver the things that we know matter most to our residents. I am particularly proud of how North Tyneside has coped so far in this extremely difficult time. Every day I have seen what our tireless key workers do across the borough, from the NHS, care workers, teachers and school staff, to our refuse teams and our supermarket staff. I've also seen many examples of people working together to help each other and to find creative ways to cope. These, of course, are our local heroes, and I think we should all be very, very proud of them. Our job as a local authority is to provide essential services and community leadership to bring people together and to support the borough to get back on its feet and to build back even a better future as far as I'm concerned, and I'm sure my colleagues feel exactly the same. This plan will set out how we will do this. And I'm going to, has anybody got any questions or comments before I ask our Cabinet members to come in? No? Okay, I'm going to ask our Cabinet members just to say a few words about what they've been about. Councillor Margaret Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. We know that the virus has not gone away, so we need to learn to live with it in a safe way. Our plan will ensure that we can contain the spread of infection and protect the safety of our residents, staff and visitors. Our work to develop a local COVID-19 outbreak plan will mean that we can implement the NHS test and trace service to prevent the spread of this awful virus. And our work to provide support for those who might have to continue to shield will continue to be vital. This provides an essential lifeline to our most vulnerable at this time, and I'm proud of how we have worked together with colleagues who have been redeployed and with the Army of Volunteers to do this. Making sure that we are COVID secure in our public places, our workplaces, our schools, colleges and town centres or shopping areas will be vital. Social distancing is a good hand and respiratory hygiene. It will remain part of our lives for some time to come. We will work with all our partners across the borough to make sure that this is in place. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hall. Now on to Councillor Carol Burdis.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm extremely proud. I'm also proud, Margaret, of how our communities across North Tyneside have come together at this time. This will need to continue as we come to the recovery phase. We will also need to ensure that we are listening to those communities and to our residents to understand what is important to them and what support they will continue to need. Our big community conversation activity over the summer will help us do that. This year, of course, it will be a bit different in how we can do this, but we will find a way that works so that we can ensure we listen and hear what our communities and residents are saying. Building back confidence across our communities will also be important. People will need to feel safe to go out and about again. They will want to know what we have robust ways to manage any local outbreaks, as well as providing safe spaces for people to go out and enjoy. However, making sure that North Tyneside is a safe place to live, work and visit will mean that, as we saw last week, we will need to work in close partnership with Northumbria Police and other agencies to take swift and strong action wherever antisocial behaviour occurs. Unfortunately, as we saw last week, the combination of hot weather and people being able to be out and about as lockdown eases, and with the schools still not fully open and not all people back to work, can mean that problems occur. I'm very proud of how our teams, the police and others, responded to tackle the situation. A lot of it alcohol fueled. Let me make this clear. We will not and cannot tolerate such bad behaviour. Of course, it's only a certain minority that cause the problem and that others must suffer. The vast majority of people want to enjoy the sunshine and socially distance outside with friends and family. I now want to thank our wonderful community and voluntary sector who have been brilliant throughout, particularly with the support for people who are shielding. We will continue to work in partnership with the sector as a key part in our recovery plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burdis. We now are asking Councillor Gary Bell, Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care. Thank you, Gary.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The impact which this pandemic has had on all our people has been devastating, not only from a health point of view, but also people have been unable to see their loved ones and had to cope often living in isolation. This has been incredibly difficult, especially for those who have died during this epidemic. I want to pay tribute to our care sector workers across North Tyneside. They have been at the front line in dealing with incredibly cruel disease and ensure that the most vulnerable people have the care and support they need, including the most difficult time at the end of life. I want to pay tribute to our thousands of carers across our communities. Their continued support for their families and loved ones often goes unnoticed, but it cannot have been more important at a time like this. Our recovery plan will ensure that we continue to protect our vulnerable older people in a safe way, responding to ways in which demand for our social care and services might change in the future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. We now go to Councillor Peter Early, who's Cabinet Member for Children, Young People and Learning.
Thank you, Mayor. From our work with schools, family and children, or young people themselves, we know that the pandemic has had a huge impact on the younger members of our communities. Not being able to go to school, do other activities and to socialise with their friends have impacted in lots of ways, from education loss to mental health and well-being. It is vital that our recovery plan puts our children and young people as a priority to ensure that they are able to pick back up and to have confidence in the future. I'm hugely proud of how our schools have adjusted to a whole new way of working to ensure that our children and young people can learn from home, to provide school places so that key workers can continue to deliver essential services we need, to make sure that our most vulnerable children can continue to access school, to get vital specialist support, to support our poorest families to be able to afford the food they need. I also want to pay tribute to our parents and carers who have had to step up and homeschool their children, something which is not at all easy to do. We know that getting our children and young people back into schools in a safe way will be a key priority as part of the recovery plan. We will continue to work closely with our schools to achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Early. Now it's Councillor Carl Johnson, Cabinet Member for Environment and Transport.
Thank you, Mayor. Now that we're in the recovery phase, it's important to ensure that North Tyneside is not only a great place to live, work and visit, but a safe place to live, work and visit. I'd also like to start by saying thank you to our bereavement services team who had to cope with such an unprecedented situation and to treat people with respect and dignity, including friends and family who have not been able to say goodbye to their loved ones in a way they normally would. I'd also like to thank our environmental team for the work they have continued to do throughout the pandemic, including our refuse teams who day in and day out have continued to provide the most essential of services. Our recovery plan will ensure that we can be a safe place to live, work and visit, from our parks to our beaches to our open spaces and our town centres, including our shopping areas. We have already started with this, with clear signage across the borough to remind people of the importance of continued social distancing and respiratory hygiene. We are bringing forward some temporary changes to our roads and pavement areas. We need to create more space so that businesses can reopen safely and that people feel safe and confident to be out and about. In coming up with these plans, we have taken the time to listen to businesses and residents, and we'll continue to work with them as we keep everything under review. We know one of the positive impacts of this dreadful virus has been on the environment, with less pollution from cars and more use of sustainable ways to get around. So a key part of this recovery plan will be how we can continue to support this behavioural change and continue to reap the benefits as part of our action plan to address the climate emergency. Thanks.
Thank you very much. It's now Councillor Sarah David, and unfortunately she hasn't been able to reach us, so I'll just read her piece for you. A key priority for our recovery plan is to make sure that we can continue to restore our excellent cultural, sport and leisure facilities when it is safe to do so and in line with all public health guidance. I am pleased that we've already been able to reopen some of our sports provision so that people have been able to get back out to do things they love, or perhaps to try something completely new. I'm also delighted that our plans for roads and pavements will be able to make it easier and safer for our people to cycle, because Sarah is our cycle champion. And as she is a cycle champion from North Tyneside, she's been pleased to see more and more people take this up as they found ways to exercise throughout the lockdown period. But I know that for some people, they wanted more space to be able to cycle more safely. So it is fantastic that we are able to do this along our coastal strip. We are working on our plans to make our cultural, sport and leisure facilities to be COVID secure. And once we get the green light from government to go ahead and reopen, I'm confident that we'll be able to make it safe and welcome people back into what they love to do in a safe way. Thank you very much. Councillor Steve Cox, Cabinet Member for Housing.
Hello, Madam Mayor, thank you very much. I'd like to say part of this plan will continue to ensure that we are able to get all our services back up in both housing and construction in a safe way for both our staff and our customers. Some services have, of course, continued throughout the response phase of the pandemic, and I would like to thank our teams for this. This has included our work to continue to do emergency and essential repairs to our council housing, our continued priority to address antisocial behaviour, and our work to support people who are homeless and to support rough sleepers into permanent accommodation. Part of our recovery plan will be to ensure that we are able to provide advice and support to our housing tenants, some of whom may now be in financial difficulty as a result of losing their jobs or having a reduction in their income. We are also closely watching how the pandemic is impacting on the housing market and how this will impact on our delivery of affordable homes. As we move into more recovery, we will be able to start to step up more services, and this will continue including non-essential repairs and maintenance, planned improvements to council housing, and other public buildings, as well as our further work on delivering more affordable homes. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. And now is Councillor Bruce Pickard, our Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. We've been working with the businesses. We want to support them during this crisis, but also to help them prepare for the recovery. We've also been looking at two specific grants, that is the discretionary grant and the North of Tyne grant, to try to address some of the gaps that were left in the government funding for the support to businesses. And they've had a very good response from the businesses community in North Tyneside. We're continuing with our regeneration schemes, and we now start our work again, for instance, on Northumberland Square, where we hope to continue the regeneration there. And we're also now looking at the projects within the Our Ambitions plans, hoping to look at the existing situation that we have in terms of the construction industry, but we're also looking to bring forward our exciting plans for the regeneration of North Shields. And we're looking at plans that will help support our businesses and residents to recover from this crisis.
Thank you, Councillor Pickard. We're now on to Councillor Ray Glindon, Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources.
Thank you, Mayor. Like every other local authority in the country, the pandemic has had a huge impact on our finances. Initial estimates show around 24.9 million for this current financial year. This is made up of 14.9 million additional costs and almost 10 million of income forgone. The support grant we've received from government so far is only 12.5 million. So this leaves us with a huge shortfall and a financial risk to manage. Along with our colleagues across the region, we continue to lobby government for additional financial support to help alleviate these pressures and risks. And a key part of our recovery plan will be to keep this under review and look to the medium term in terms of what financial impact this will be over the next few years. I would like to thank the team for the hard work in making sure that all applications for business grants and rate rebates were processed as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glindon. I would now like to take the opportunity to thank everyone who has written to me and telephoned me and emailed me and thanking us how the council has actually dealt with this particular pandemic. And I would like to say, being the leader, I didn't do it on my own. And that's why today you've listened to all our cabinet members who helped us to get there. And of course, our wonderful officers who are working together. And it's important to remember of all those people, and many of them are here today, representing their areas like our businesses, our community people, our representing the aged people. And I just want to say it hasn't been about me or anyone in particular. What has been good about how we've dealt with this is all of us coming together and working to one thing, is that because we all love North Tyneside and we want to actually get through this and continue on the good work we've been doing for the last 7 years. And I would just honestly say to you, please remember, this virus hasn't gone away. It's still there. It's still with us. So remember, you might feel a little bit free, but it's very, very important to remember that social distancing and washing your hands and keeping that hygiene going, because you've just probably witnessed what's happening in Leicester. And it would be really upsetting if we had a flare-up again in North Tyneside. So thank everybody for their help, all the volunteers, the unions and everyone who else has pulled together. Because I know for a fact, we could not have done it without everyone out there coming to us and helping us to make that happen. Your support and your efforts are actually much appreciated. So thank you very much. And not forgetting our great staff as well. I should forget them. Okay, thank you very much. We now go on to item 7, which is, it's item 7. It's the Poverty Intervention Fund, and that's Councillor Pickard.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pleased to bring this report to the Cabinet. The report sets out how we propose to manage and deliver our new Poverty Intervention Fund. Back in February, when we were settling the Council's budget for 2021, we included 1 million for this new fund. We knew that by targeting help to alleviate the impacts of living in poverty, it would make a key difference to the lives of the poorest people living in our borough. We did not know then how things could have changed in the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic will expose and increase the existing inequalities in North Tyneside in terms of employment, health, equality, educational attainment, and further exacerbate the poverty for children, working-age families and our pensioners. In North Tyneside, around 42% of children in the most deprived wards, that is Riverside, Churton and Howden, are living in poverty compared to an average of 1 in 5 children across the borough as a whole. The proportion of residents experiencing financial hardship is greater in this part of the borough, where 14% of people have not been able to afford food and 20% cannot pay fuel and energy bills. The number of pensioners in poverty is also at a worrying level. Recently, a national survey by the Just Group also found that 46% of pensioner homeowners are failing to claim any state benefits, while a further 18% are claiming but receiving less than they are entitled to. This report sets out our overall policy aim for the fund, which is to help to alleviate the impacts of poverty on families and individuals across North Tyneside and to provide support for those who need it. We know that living in poverty can have detrimental impacts. There are the obvious financial impacts of poverty, where families are struggling to make ends meet to be able to afford the basics, or where they are having to go without certain things which others take for granted, such as clothing, including school uniforms and winter coats, or food costs during school holidays. Pensioner poverty results in having to struggle to cover food and energy bills, worrying that they have no savings to pay for any unexpected costs, such as a fridge or a cooker breaking down, or being unable to afford a day out to visit a friend or relative. But there are other less obviously social impacts of poverty, where people really suffer by not being able to play a full role in society and to have the opportunity to access things which others can, such as after school or out of school activities for children, or to be able to access things using digital technology, something which has been taken on a new importance during the pandemic. And there's also the health impacts of poverty. Poverty can affect the health of people at all ages. Children living in poverty are more likely to suffer from chronic disease and diet-related problems. We can also expect the healthy life expectancy gap between the most and least deprived parts of the Tyneside to increase. This report sets out how we propose to operate and manage the fund. To provide maximum flexibility, it can be used for council-delivered interventions, grant funding, or to commission services, whatever is the most appropriate to meet the need. I know that through this fund, we have the opportunity to make a real difference to the day-to-day lives of the people who need it most. Something which is even more important now as across North Tyneside we start our slow recovery from the pandemic. I would therefore ask Cabinet to agree the recommendations as set out in this report.
Thank you, Councillor Pickard. Has anybody got any questions for Councillor Pickard? Has anybody got any comments about this report? Councillor Burtis.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say, just a comment really, how I welcome it. I think it's a really good initiative, and it's something that will be valued throughout our communities, and I look forward to working with the people involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to make a... Oh, Dawn, would you like to come in?
Yeah, just to say it is great to see this fund, but to emphasise the point again around digital poverty in older people. Yeah. And whilst technology has got us a long way during this crisis, there's only so many older people that are comfortable using it. So just to emphasise that point.
Thank you, Dawn. Peter Early, would you like to come in?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to reiterate what the Deputy Mayor has said about the effects of poverty on young children and young people across my portfolio. And he's right to point out that this has been exacerbated greatly by the COVID-19 emergency. So we have a lot of work to do in combating poverty amongst children and young people. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, I would just like to thank Councillor Pickard and Councillor Glendon, who, when they were actually formulating the budget, managed to find us money to do this, to be quite honest, because for someone like myself, I'm sure will recognise, if you worked in an area of deprivation for many, many years, you realise how much is needed. And sadly, 10 years on, after this austerity from this government, we're no better off. In fact, we're worse off, to be quite honest. And I think it's quite worrying. So this particular initiative is most welcome. So thank you very much indeed. We now come on to Councillor Gary Bell and Adult Social Care Action Plan.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Reference the action plan. COVID-19 has imposed significant and additional demands on care market. Local care providers, the local authority and NHS services have been working together since the start of the pandemic to understand and respond to these challenges. The purpose of this report is firstly to set out in some detail the approach which North Tyneside Council and its partners are taking in response to the COVID-19 pandemic in respect of adult social care. Secondly, this report sets out a proposed approach to securing greater market stability with a longer-term programme of work to consider service redesign and market reshaping as a result of the experience of COVID-19 and the changing nature for demand of adult social care services. In conclusion, I would ask the Cabinet accepts the recommendations set out in paragraph 1.2 of this report. Madam Mayor.
Can I just come in 1 minute, and can I ask you to agree the previous report, because I'm sure I didn't ask you to do that. Could you also read the previous? Sorry about that. I do apologise. That's good. Now we can come to the adult. Has anybody got any questions for Gary Bell on the adult social care? Yeah. Any questions, comments? No. Can we agree that report then on the adult social care action? Thank you very much. The next is item 9. It's the provisional financial outturn report. Now, I think that's you, Councillor Grindon, isn't it?
It is, Mayor, thank you.
Well done, thank you very much. Over to you.
The finance outturn report is the final monetary report for the financial year 2019 to 2020. It shows in detail how we performed against the budget. It also forms an important supplement to the statement of accounts, which will be presented to the Audit Committee for formal approval in November 2020. The figures in this report are provisional until the audit of accounts is completed and the accounts are approved. The General Fund Reserve position, where details are shown on Table 2 within Section 2, has been an improvement from the forecast figures previously reported to Cabinet across most services, leading to an overall surplus of £50,000. It's proposed that this balance added to will be added to the strategic reserve. In addition to this, there was also 2 one-off dividend receipts received within year. There was £637,000 from the airport and £400,000 from the closure of Kia North Tyneside, which is a joint venture. It's proposed to allocate £195,000 to the general fund balances, and remaining £842,000 we allocate to the strategic reserve. Throughout the year, the monetary reports to the Cabinet have referred to the strategic issues the authority was facing as part of its financial management. Besides the delivery of targeted services, the main areas highlighted were the costs associated with adults and children's social care, both national issues which clearly impact on the authority's finances. The sustained approach to borrowing is set out in the Treasury Management Strategy, allows savings to be made as part of the overall sustained management actions that have led to an outturn position. One of the benefits of the Council's regular budget monitoring process has been that its outcomes can inform both budget setting and final accounts preparation. Budget setting, budget management and final accounts can therefore be seen as related parts of a continuous process of financial management by the Council. As each year unfolds, fresh financial pressures will occur and the issues of managing these must be addressed. In effect, this is a statutory requirement of the Local Government Act 2003, a responsibility this Cabinet takes very seriously. Financial management actions and one-off transactions in the later part of the year has enabled a transfer to reserves that will help us deal with some specific pressures we'll face over the next few years, as we continue to see the impact of austerity measures being sustained across local government. Onto the schools now, Mayor, and it's seen in Section 6, school balances have reduced by 1.599 million at the start of the financial year to 165,000 at 31st of March 2020. Whereas some schools have seen their individual balances increase, the value of the individual school deficits overall has increased, which contributes to a 1.434 reduction in balances. Overall, the position improved from projected overall deficit balances of 4.661 million. Also has continued to work with schools regarding their approach to forecasting. Moving next on the HRA, as seen in Section 7, the HRA has a year-end balances of 7.803 million, which includes an in-year improvement against budget of 2.831 million. Rent collection levels have performed well, in part due to the work in place to mitigate the impact of welfare reform to the tenants. Moving next to the investment plan, which is covered in Section 8. The final expenditure was 59.08 million against a budget of 65.182 million. The outturn includes a reprogramming of £6.262 million. A specific update is also provided in the report on Treasury Management, which is in Section 9. This section outlines the Treasury strategy taken, which was to delay borrowing by maximising the use of internal resources and short-term borrowing, which reduced the cost of reduced counterparty risk. The approach has secured savings from a number of years. However, the Cabinet should be assured that continued monitoring of interest rates is undertaken to ensure necessary steps are taken to secure historical low rates, and should shift in loan rates will be anticipated. With regard to the prudential indicators, which is also included in Section 9, all transactions during 2019-2020 have been completed with the indicators set. As with all authorities, North Tyneside Council has felt the impact of ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The authority received its share of central government local authority grant of 6.822 million in March 2020. A further 5.709 million was received in May 2020, which is a total of 12.531 million to support local authorities with additional costs and income lost due to COVID-19. The impact in 1920 was 733,000. The remaining balance of 11.798 million is being held within a ring-fence reserve. Also, I continue to work with the Cabinet to quantify the impact of costs and income foregone in 2020 and 2021. Monthly reserves from the MHCLG project the financial impact of COVID-19, 24.930 million in May, on the authority to be far in excess of the current funding made available from central government. The impact of COVID-19 on the medium-term financial plan is currently being considered, and the refreshed plan will be presented to the future Cabinet. I'll just have to take a drink. My mouth's dry. I'm sorry.
Yes, you've got a long session tonight. Thank you.
In addition to the local support grant, the authority received 38.494 million grant from the government aimed at supporting small businesses during the pandemic. Using records held on the Northgate system, initial estimates were 3,014 small businesses would be eligible to apply for this grant at a cost of 34.270 million. At the end of May 2020, the authority had made payments of payments to 2,567 of the eligible businesses, totaling £29.495 million, with payments still being made on a daily basis. That was 85.17% of the number of businesses. As we move forward, the role of the Cabinet Member of Finance will be continue to reinforce the importance of close monitoring and control of the core budgets, that we maintain a strong balance sheet and we continue to give attention to the detail and forward planning, the anticipation of risk, in order to ensure the flexibility and managing any pressures which arise in the year. The report sets out in section 1.2 the recommendations of the Cabinet, which I ask you to agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Oh, that sounds awful. I don't have got the echo. I don't know if you can stop the echoing. But all I was going to say is somebody got the mic on? So yeah, is that better? That's better. I just want to say thank you, Councillor Glendon. That was a long introduction to this very important report. But we need to know exactly where we are as far as the finance is concerned, and it's in careful management. One of the things I just want to thank you and the officers for is to getting this awful times sorted out for us and keep our authority going and managing the finances so well. It's much appreciated, and I know we're coming into difficult times. There's no doubt about that. But has anyone got any questions for Councillor Glendon? Any comments? Well, I would just like to say, Councillor Glendon, that your staff and yourself are pretty good. Not just pretty good, great you are. Because I got a lovely email. No, I got a request through business one night saying he was in desperate trouble. He didn't have the money to do this and that. So I got on to one of my staff, who that night sent it to one of your staff. And the following morning, I got an email from that gentleman saying I was a diamond. How about that? He'd never had such a quick response from this council ever. Well, I was absolutely wonderful. And I want to make it quite clear, I hope that gentleman's listening. I only asked somebody to do it, and you rose to the occasion very quickly. So thank you so much to you and your staff in the finance. You're doing us really proud. Thank you indeed.
Thank you.
Now, can we all agree that report then?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. We now go on to item 10, which is North Tyneside Transport Strategy Annual Report, and I think that's Councillor Carl Johnson.
It certainly is. Thank you, Mayor. In May 2017, Cabinet adopted the North Tyneside Transport Strategy, which sets out the authority's vision for transport in the borough and sets out 5 principles which we are key to achieving this. Since then, the authority's policies and strategies, which cover more specific aspects of transport, have been updated to reflect the aims of the transport strategy. The transport strategy includes a commitment to report progress to Cabinet on an annual basis, and the purpose of this report is therefore to present information to Cabinet. Some of the salient points are summarised in the fact sheet, which forms Appendix 2 to this report. For example, the report notes that we have seen a decrease in serious collisions compared with the previous year, which compares very positively compared to the regional picture. We have continued to cater for sustained growth in cycling, installing a high centre cycle track and salters as just one example of what we've done. Our Go Smarter team works with schools in the borough. We have seen increases in sustainable travel at many participant schools. We are also one of the first areas in the country to deliver a school streets event. We are continuing to improve on our infrastructure for all users, including major schemes, as well as investment for our local transport capital programme. Our Streetworks permit system helps us manage the network for the benefit of road users. But I think it's also important to bear in mind that the report only covers the year end to March 2020, and hence does not cover the most recent months of affected by COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown measures. I was going to hand over to my colleague, Councillor Day, who is the authority cycling champion, but Councillor Day sent me what she was intending to say because she hadn't been able to make it onto the call, so I'll go through that.
That's very kind. Thank you very much.
Councillor Day, I want to say, last year we took part in the first time in Bike Life report for 2019, produced in partnership with Sustrans, Gateshead and Newcastle City Council. Some of the interesting statistics coming out of this Bike Life Tyneside report are 15% of residents already ride a bike at least once a week. However, another 25% that don't currently cycle would like to start. Nearly 3/4 of residents, 72%, would like to see more space for cycling, walking and socialising on their local high street. And well over half, 57%, think streets outside local schools should be closed to cars at school run times. There will be important considerations to bear in mind as we move forward with our infrastructure and training programmes. I'd like to hand back over to Councillor Johnson, which is of course me. So thank you. In recent months, we've also seen some really positive results of the lockdown. Better air quality, more people are looking at ways to stay active and healthy, and particularly more people cycling. We need to address these opportunities and support local businesses by providing increased space for cycling, walking, and customers queuing. After this, we'll need to move swiftly to provide more protected cycling routes, which allow people to get to work and around the borough by bike. Clearly, there are also a number of challenges, not least the much reduced capacity of public transport to consider as we move forward with the recovery process and respond to the climate emergency. Cabinet is therefore invited to note the content of this report and the information contained in the appendices. Thank you.
Have we got any questions for Councillor Johnson? Yes, Roger.
Could I just ask, Paul, I heard that there was a 200% increase in cycling in the borough since the lockdown. Is that still an accurate figure?
Yeah, so certainly, particularly when it's good weather, but somewhere between 200 and 300% increase in cycling in the borough, which is obviously fantastic to see. Thanks, Roger.
Councillor Hall?
Yes, can I make some comments about what we're on the eve of something quite incredible in North Tyneside, where we're creating a new front road seaside experience, and a lot of it is to the benefit of the pedestrian and the cyclists. And following many complaints from pedestrians about cyclists and vice versa, it's really good to know that I think by the end of this week we should have separate facility for cyclists both going north and south up along the coast, and for pedestrians separated from the cyclists, all of them happily enjoying the experience and hopefully greeting each other with a good morning or good afternoon as they pass. Anyway, thank you all, everyone, for making that happen. I know it was instructed, the government instructed. I personally would like to see continue afterwards, and I'm hoping that everybody takes opportunity to enjoy what will be a different experience down that the main sea road, the main seafront. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Anyone else got anything to say? Well, I know I've had a number of emails saying, at last, we're going to have a lovely sort of cycle route along the coast. And at least I'm going to be safe, Mayor. So there are a lot of people, Councillor Hall, who are really positive about it to happen, to be quite honest. And as you say, we were instructed to do it by this government, but at the end of the day, it's proved very popular with many of our residents. Another thing I was quite pleased about was the fact that a lot of people are very fond of our wagonways, and I'm going to say, Councillor Johnson, have they been given some money to do any work on the wagonways?
Not in this phase, but there's a tranche 2 of money that will come later on in the summer.
So we've already made a bid for that money to do that, because I think a lot of people would like to take the advantage if we make them more safe. And I mean, they're lovely to start with, but we need to do some work on them to make them more safe and able to ride and enjoy, to be quite honest. So I'm delighted that we might be getting that money to come to do that. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mayor. I was going to make a couple of comments after anyone else comments.
You made comments, yes.
Reinforce what Councillor Hall was saying. Yes, just as we're in this meeting now, our Highways Network manager just emailed to say that we have received all the equipment and we will be ready to go live on Wednesday. So on Wednesday morning, when people wake up, there'll be a new cycle track along the coastal path. There'll be more spaces for people to walk around our town centres, not interacting with cars as much as we pedestrianise a large swathes of those areas. On our fish quay, there'll be more opportunities for the leisure vendors down there come Friday and Saturday to make use of the outdoor space. These are really positive changes for the borough, but there is more to come. Tranche 2 will focus on more areas to commute into work for cycling, more protected cycling for commuting. We'll also trial some filtered neighbourhoods, which will reduce rat runs through estates and make cars stick to the main roads, giving people more opportunities to go outside their own home and enjoy the street that they live in. We'll be trying some school streets, which will close off those school areas outside of schools where pick up and drop up times to ensure that people's kids have a safe environment to leave and enter school in. All these things are great, and we all are coming ahead. So we are making some really positive progress on walking and cycling in North Tyneside. And that's clear to see from the responses that we've all surely had in our inbox over the last couple of weeks. Thank you.
That's really good to know, and I'm sure it'll be really appreciated by many of our residents, not only from that idea of being safe, but at the end of the day, it's healthy, isn't it? It's, you know, it's going to be really good. Fresh air, right, which they say they're enjoying now, and getting healthy, which is fantastic. So can we agree that report then?
Great.
Thank you very much. We now go on to item 11, statement of community involvement. And I think that's Councillor, who's that? The Councillor, it's the Deputy, is it the Deputy? Yes, it's the Deputy Mayor, yes, sorry,
yeah.
Councillor Pickard, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you. This report seeks council approval for the statement of community involvement, a policy document that sets out how we as a council will engage the local community and others in the preparation of planning policy and the consideration of planning applications. It is a statutory requirement for councillors to adopt a statement of community involvement that I will refer to as the statement, and regulations now set out that they should be updated every 5 years. Cabinet adopted the existing statement on the 9th of September 2013, and since that time the introduction of the new legislation and updates to local and national planning policy and guidance mean it is now important that we revise the statement to reflect these changes. The report sets out in further detail the key legislative changes that now need to be taken into account. That includes providing additional information on how the council will assist neighbourhood planning groups and refreshing the statement to align with updates to permitted development rights that change the range of applications where public consultation might take place. And importantly, the requirement to review the local plan documents every 5 years. The review of the statement has also provided a timely opportunity to add additional information outlining how the council will continue public engagement during periods of social distancing, lockdown or other occasions where access to public buildings is limited or large public gatherings are not possible. Therefore, having undergone a thorough process of review, I am pleased to recommend that council approve option 1 of this report and agree to adopt the Statement of Community Involvement 2020.
Thank you very much. Any questions on that report, Councillor Pickard? Right, can we agree that report then?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. We now go on to item 11, item 12, renewal of Article 4 directions. Land at Preston Park and specified streets within the Spanish Battery, Newquay and Tynemouth. And that's over to you once again, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bruce Pickard.
Okay, thank you. This report seeks Cabinet approval to update and consult upon 4 existing Article 4 directions within the borough in place to support the protection of 3 of our conservation areas. Article 4 directions are legal tools available to local planning authorities to remove permitted plant development rights from land and dwelling houses so that certain developments such as small extensions cannot be undertaken without first obtaining planning permission. These are effective tools in conservation areas where the cumulative effect of many small-scale developments can have an adverse effect upon the area. The purpose of an Article 4 direction is to better manage proposals to avoid harm to the amenity that makes our conservation areas unique. They are not to prevent good quality development. Cabinet previously confirmed Article 4 directions in conservation areas at Preston Park, Spanish Battery, Newquay and Tynemouth Village. As part of the authority's ongoing refresh of its planning framework, which has included the adoption of the North Tyneside local plan in 2017 and updated supplementary planning documents in 2018 and 19, the work programme has progressed to consideration of the continued suitability and effectiveness of these Article 4 directions. The outcome of the review is that the existing directions are updated to improve their interpretation in accordance with the current planning legislation. The extent of the conservation areas affected by the existing directions would not change. The legislation requires that when an authority makes an Article 4 direction, the decision must be subject to public consultation for a period of 6 weeks. Consultation is therefore proposed for July and August using the approach set out in the report. It is also proposed to prepare an engagement plan to ensure the statutory consultation is appropriately publicised, including direct engagement with ward councillors and taking into account each affected area and the ongoing restrictions imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Following this, the authority can confirm the Article 4 directions at a future meeting of Cabinet, taking into consideration any responses that are received. An update on the existing Article 4 directions is recommended to ensure their continued effectiveness, interpretation and implementation, thus allowing the authority to fulfil its statutory duty of preserving and enhancing the affected conservation areas. Therefore, I recommend the Cabinet approve the recommendations in this report and agree to make the identified draft Article 4 directions and to consult with residents and landowners of each of the 4 affected areas. Cabinet will be invited at the future meetings to confirm the updated directions following the consultation exercise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we actually agree with that report? Has anybody any concerns or questions about it, first of all? No? Then can we agree that report to go out to consultation with the residents?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. We are now on to item 13, public spaces protection orders, and I'll start off with Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek authority from the Cabinet to commence a 6-week consultation exercise on proposal to extend the public spaces protection orders in North Tyneside. We know from our engagement work that residents want the council to address environmental crime and deal with antisocial behaviour. As we recover from the COVID-19 pandemic and the following issues we experienced last week along our coast, that feedback is now louder than ever. Tackling environmental crime is a key priority for the elected mayor, and this has been backed by additional resources. The number of officers deployed has increased, and we have invested in the tools we use, such as upgrading and expanding our CCTV capability. One of the key tools we use is public space protection orders. These are legal orders in place that help us regulate the use of our public spaces across the borough. The orders, referred to as PSPOs, were introduced in October 2017. They control dogs and they control the consumption of alcohol. When the PSPOs were made, they will remain in force for a period of 3 years. Therefore, the PSPOs will expire in October this year. The law prevents a longer period unless they are formally extended. I know some people have asked why the council does not ban alcohol on beaches. Unfortunately, while this may sound attractive, the law relating to this regulation of public spaces particularly does not allow councils to impose such a measure. We already have an order in place that restricts our consumption of alcohol in public, which includes the whole borough, including the beaches, of course, which takes us to the limit of what we can currently legally do. It's an order that we are seeking to extend here. It is therefore proposed that our orders are extended by the following legal processes, which includes the need to undertake statutory consultation. I know that Councillor Burtis, as a Cabinet member for responsibility for community safety and engagement, will want to comment on that.
Councillor Burtis.
You're on mute, Councillor Burtis.
You're on mute.
I know, I've been trying to unmute.
Right. Good. You're with us now,
Things I've said enough today. Anyway, thank you, Councillor Johnson. Yes, I would like to comment on that. But before I do, as Chair of Safer North Tyneside Partnership, I would like to take the opportunity to publicly condemn the behaviour of the small minority of people who came to our coast last week, seemingly intent on causing trouble. I echo your comments, Councillor Johnson, about the importance we place on tackling environmental crime. It's a key priority also within our community safety strategy, which was endorsed by the Council earlier last year. I have recently instructed that our delivery plan is reviewed and updated to take into account the new challenges we face as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. Thankfully, most people enjoy our public spaces responsibly, including our beautiful coastline. Nevertheless, during COVID-19, the police, the council and its partners have worked tirelessly to keep safe during the unprecedented circumstances. We are continuing to do that during the recovery phase, and I would like to pass on my thanks to our officers and our police colleagues in the work that they are doing. In relation to the public space protection orders, from an engagement point of view, Should Cabinet approve the proposals to consult and extend the orders, an engagement plan will be finalised to meet both the statutory requirements and the authority's recognised corporate standards for consultation. Due regard, of course, will be given to the ongoing restrictions imposed by COVID-19 pandemic in doing that. As recommended in the report, I'm pleased that the approach to the engagement process will be finalised in consultation with both myself and Councillor Johnson. And I'll now hand back to Councillor Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burdis.
Thank you again, Councillor Burdis. I therefore ask Cabinet to approve the recommendations set out in 1.2 of the report. We will see that following completion of the consultation exercise, the intention is to bring the report back to Cabinet so an informed decision can be made on taking whether or not to extend the PSPOs. Thank you.
Thank you. Has anybody got any questions about that particular report? Yes, Roger, over to you.
Could I just ask Carl if it gives you any more powers as far as fly tipping is concerned?
So PSPOs on in the fly tipping isn't in the PSPO's remit. We do have fly tipping powers anyway to prosecute and take them to court, but it wouldn't in the PSPO remit. We are taking action on fly tipping. We've got some ready to go to court very soon, so you should see more action on that. We also have our environmental teams that we set up, our hit squads, to try and tackle fly tipping, and we did see a massive decrease when we brought these teams into place. So absolutely, cheers, Roger.
Yes, yes, David Hodgson. I can see your hand up. Yes.
Thank you very much. I was just wondering, having regard to the difficulties in Cullercoats Bay last week, would it be possible to have any CCTV cameras stationed there? Because it seems to be an ongoing. It's an easy place for people from further inland to come to. The metro station is so close to the bay, and it seems to be a natural place for people to arrive at. And might give us earlier warning.
We have a CCTV camera at Cullercoats Bay that Councillor Burdis was instrumental in getting, and the Mayor were instrumental in getting installed after the Easter weekend when we had some initial much smaller scale trouble there. So we got our CCTV, and that played a large part of the response to our community protection team being able to get the police there so quickly to deal with the issue very quickly on the day.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you very much. I hadn't appreciated
I think Councillor Burdis has been working with the police to get a van there or something. Is that right, Councillor Burdis?
It is, yes. Thank you, Mayor. We have been in discussions to try and get a vehicle to be static down there. And I have spoke to the PCC, the Police and Crime Commissioner, and while she does understand our plight and what's going on down our coastline, she does want us to acknowledge that she has got, the Northumbria Police Force area has got a very large coastline. But she said if she gets any extra resources, she will definitely put them into North Tyneside. She also said that the engagement vehicle is now ready, and she was going to have a chat with the people who drive that, and because she thinks that would be good to come down. Again, it'll not be static there for weeks and for all of the summer like I would like it, which is what my original request was, to have it throughout the summer. But she said it will go along all the coastlines. So I've asked her to make sure we don't get it on a rainy day, that we get it when it's nice and hot and there's lots of people there to take advantage of it, because apparently the vehicle is a really good vehicle, because it means law-abiding citizens can go on and they can talk to the police, get information, as well as the police a hub for the police to sit there and see what's going on firsthand. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Burdis. Any more comments on that particular report? Right then, can we agree that report then?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Well, can I thank you all for attending? Much appreciated. And I do hope that you will continue to work in partnership with us. Your help and support is really, really appreciated. And we've come a long way together. We need to travel more on this road together on that journey, because eventually we will get there. we'll get where the big flame is, not just the little flicker. We'll be there when we get there. So thank you so much for coming along. And the next meeting is on Monday, the 3rd of August at 6 p.m. Thank you so much. And can the cabinet members hang on, please?